Ric Bucher, covering the league since 1993. He's on Speak today. Our Fox Sports NBA analyst, Ric Bucher, joining us today. So, I remember that Milwaukee series, and we've talked about this. Generally, stars, Luka, Giannis, MJ, Kobe, they're good everywhere.
Yeah.
But your second, third, fourth, fifth guys tend to be on average in these big spots, a little better at home.
Yep.
So my theory is this does have a little bit of a feel. That Phoenix team like Boston, pretty stacked. We had questions about their 1-0 as being a 1. Do you think Dallas does have a shot going forward?
I do. I still believe they have a chance at winning the series for a number of the reasons that you've already pointed out. I also believe, well, I don't know if we look at Kyrie Irving purely as a role player, I do believe that he was fighting some gremlins in Boston, wanted to show the Boston fans something and was doing a little too much on his own as opposed to just playing within the concept of the team. And I do think, look, the Mavericks haven't gotten anything out of their bigs. Maxi Kleber hasn't given him anything. Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, at least offensively. Rebounding-wise, a little bit, but scoring-wise, not at all. And they need that. P.J. Washington, same thing. I'm looking at Luka in the need for him to be a better playmaker and to make decisions quicker because the Dallas Mavericks are better overall. Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively and all those guys aren't going to get, P.J. Washington even, aren't going to get things on their own. Luka's going to be setting that up. He had 1 assist in Game 1, and he had 8 turnovers in Game 2. He has 12 assists and 12 turnovers in the 2 games. He has to be a far better playmaker to get those guys involved, and they are a much better team when they have everybody involved. So to me, that's going to be the big difference. Can Luka, and I don't want to take away from Boston's defense. They've made things harder on him, much harder on him than Minnesota did. The matchups are more difficult for him. But I think he can play a steadier, more efficient game, and that's going to be the difference.
One of the early comps I made with Luka was Carmelo Anthony. Not in great shape, not very good in the defensive end, and may have trouble playing with others. There are videos circulating on the internet. I saw one yesterday. Luka is horrific defensively. It is just not really competing. Now, I think he's better than Melo because it's a 3-ball league and he's brilliant. And I also think better ball handler, probably better passer. But that was always the knock on Melo, which is struggles to play with others, doesn't really commit on the defensive end. When I watch those Luka clips against the Celtics, now, is it injury or?
Yeah, I think the whatever he's dealing with, that's part of it. He's never been a great defender.
No.
But he's been better over the course of this season than he's ever been.
That's the word.
And Boston also has enough offensive players and guys with size who can handle where they can go at Luka. And that's what one of the things that's what they have done that Minnesota did not do.
Yeah.
But they have the personnel to do that. So I'm going to put some of the issues that he's had defensively on where he is physically, but Boston has made a point of exposing that. So good on them for that. I really do not like your Carmelo comparison at all, though. I see
Melo's a Hall of Famer.
I see the similarities, but Luka is a much smarter playmaker in involving everybody and getting things done. In terms of being able to get where they want to go and being 3-level scorers, I would compare that. And I do think that Carmelo is one of those guys who left a lot on the table in terms of what he could have been.
Oh, totally.
Right?
Yeah.
But
I'm not saying it's a perfect comp, but it was when everybody fell in love with Luka, I said the conditioning, the defense, couldn't get along with Brunson or Porzingis. I said there's stuff there that I don't love.
You know what? This is one element that I agree with in that, and we see it go back and forth with Luka. I think Luka is trying to be a better distributor and teammate.
Because he has been.
But my problem is when, and we saw a lot of it in Game 1. We saw some of it in Game 2. When things kind of fall apart or they need a boost, he becomes very like, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And it really kind of, he'll get his numbers and he'll hit some shots, but the rest of the team doesn't play the same way.
That's right.
And that is That's what Melo did a lot and would undermine his team.
So I'm going to save Jerry West for the end because I know you have thoughts on that and know Jerry. The Dan Hurley situation with the Lakers is interesting. So the whole thing felt a little odd. He was going to be on the show today. He's recruiting. He'll be there tomorrow. There's the parts of it that are like, one reporter, Sham, said it's JJ's job. So I want to start with that. JJ had no experience. He was a podcaster. And in order for JJ to work, my take was he better get a great staff.
Yep.
Take me through what you heard about it's JJ's job. Because now it seems like he's not in the running. Was that true? Did you believe it was his job? Why did it erode quickly? Why did it regress over the course of like 4 days?
Yeah, it wasn't his job, but it was what the Lakers wanted to do if they could put the right staff around him.
Okay, so the staff meant a lot to the Lakers.
1,000%. They were like, we can see this working, but we have to have the right guys on the bench.
So what happened?
Those guys were not willing to be JJ's caddy. I mean, James Borrego, Sam Cassell, like those were the guys that they were interviewing, and everybody took it as they're interviewing them for the head coach. They're competing with JJ for the job. No, the Lakers wanted those guys to be on the staff supporting JJ because they've got far more experience. James Borrego actually has head coaching experience in Charlotte. And those guys, from what I understand, weren't willing to do it either because of the role or the money that was being offered.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, we need to pivot. Like, this isn't going to work. What else can we do?
So did they pivot to Hurley, or did Hurley reach out because he hadn't signed a contract?
My understanding is that they pivoted to Hurley because they found out that Hurley had not signed.
Oh, they thought he had signed.
The 6-year, $48 million. They didn't know he was available. And they found out, he might be available. Now, whether Hurley did it with the idea of, I don't like my deal, because the deal that was sitting on his desk that he had not signed was less than what Bill Self is making in Kansas.
Okay.
I'm Dan Hurley. I've just won back-to-back championships. I may be going for a third. I should be the highest. Like, there shouldn't even be a question. I should at least be paid on par.
So Self's about $10 million a year, and Hurley was looking at 7.5-ish.
Yes, 8.
Okay,
I think around there.
So he was looking for a little raise.
So he was looking for a raise, which I would expect his. Like everybody's reporting, he's now signing 6 years, 50. From what the governor of Connecticut has said, like he should be paid on par with Bill Self. I would expect that deal is going to end up being 10 per. He's going to get that. So he got that essentially out of the Lakers' dalliance. And but I do think that if the Lakers had come correct, if they had made a can't refuse offer, that they could have got Hurley. I don't think Hurley was just exploring it and using it as leverage to get a better deal and was always planning to go back to UConn and go after a third championship. I think he saw the opportunity to make the kind of contract that he couldn't possibly make at UConn. And we've gone back and forth on this. Like, people think that, like, well, you're two-time champion and you can go for a third and you can put yourself in the John Wooden category. Like, that's bigger than being the Lakers coach.
Right. Another Lakers coach.
I respectfully disagree. We for all that Hurley has done at UConn, like when it was March Madness, we were talking about Hurley. Beyond that, nobody's talking about Hurley. As soon as he became, he could be the Lakers head coach, it took his Q rating to a different place. I know where the Lakers are. I know the job's not great, but the fact is, being the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers is going to resonate to a greater audience. It's going to make you more visible than however many championships you win in UConn.
Let me push back. Nick Saban was more visible going to the NFL than he tanked. Like, more visible is great if you're winning.
Understood.
More visible being fired is not good for the brand.
Okay, but that's what happens after you get there, right? Like, and if you're Dan Hurley, you're thinking, if they give me enough money and they give me enough time, I can make that work. You don't have the success that Dan Hurley has had if you don't believe that no matter where you go, you can make it work. And he has the track record. He went to Wagner. They were a losing program. They were a winner when he left, top of the conference. Went to Rhode Island, losing record, turned it around, took them to the top. And now with UConn. So if I'm Dan Hurley, the reason I'm taking the Lakers job is, I know what it looks like right now, but if you give me time, I can turn this into a winner because I always have.
So I want to talk about Jerry West. I said he was almost singular. There's certainly an argument he's the greatest executive of all time. Of the 4 best dynasties, you can argue he created 3 of them. I think he played a bigger role in Golden State, where he said he'd resign if they moved Clay for Kevin Love.
Yeah.
Where he told them, move off Monte Ellis, get Bogut, get size.
Yeah.
Where he embraced Steph very early. Where he whispered into KD's ear, you're going to get easier shots out here than you are with Westbrook. So I said earlier today, I'm like, I think Michael's probably viewed as the best player. I view Jerry as the best executive. 1A is Pat Riley. That's my worldview on it.
Yeah.
Is that inaccurate? How do you land on Jerry?
This is why I'm always amazed when people don't put him in the top 3 or 4 all-time Lakers. And it's a combination of what he was as a player and what he was as an executive. And this news is kind of hard for me because Jerry was, as you said, a singular guy. And I would joke about it. Like, I would get on the phone with him and I'd ask him one question, and I'd have a lot of questions for him. I'd ask him one question, and 45 minutes later, I'm waiting to ask my second question.
His breadth of knowledge is...
he just, and it was one of the things that made him so special as an executive, because he could talk to great players as a great player. He never lost that feel for what it meant to be a great player, even when he became an executive. And his going and getting, and at the same time, he figured out ways to make the front office numbers details work. I mean, his getting Shaq from Orlando to the Lakers was no small feat at that time. That took a lot of heavy lifting. But the other part was that for all that he did, there was a humility about him.
There's no, I always felt that.
He never lost.
There's a vulnerable, I've said this about Tom Brady. Considering how good he looks and how good he's been, there was always sort of a, Bill runs the show, I'm just a quarterback.
Yep.
There is a humility to Jerry. Now, Jerry could be very relentless. If you looked at his childhood, all of our childhood shape our personalities as adults.
Sure.
But there was, when he made that Shaq deal, I can remember reading a story where he said he got sick.
Yeah.
It was such a big deal. And Shaq was regarded as literally an immovable unicorn. There was no Shaq. He made the deal. He felt, for the Bus family, for the city of Los Angeles, he was so nervous that I guess he got sick physically.
He couldn't watch games. He would get on the car. He would get into his car and drive on the freeways and listen to games, because he couldn't stand just sitting there in the stands watching games. And some of our greatest assets are also our biggest defects, right?
Sure.
And what drove him and what kind of fueled that humility was this feeling like, if I don't work as hard as I possibly can, I'm not going to make it. I'm going to lose. I'm going to not be good enough. And it was almost like a paranoia and an obsession to work as hard as he did.
Yeah.
And so that fueled him, but at the time it made him a little crazy too. I mean, he was known as both the Logo and El Loco. He had both nicknames, and lived up to both of them. But man, what a tortured human being in some ways, but just a genuine. I got to tell you, just between losing Bill and now losing Jerry, like, those are two guys that they brought such a humanity to the league. If you were in the league and you got a chance to know them, that's what made the NBA so special, is the fabric of it and the people that you got to know and who they were.
Well, the NFL's always been very corporate. Basketball has been the artist league. That's why I always feel that basketball, NBA basketball, is similar to international soccer. That Messi may be flawed and Ronaldo's not perfect, but this is an open canvas. The ball is yours.
Yep.
Make art.
Yep.
Football is diagrammed, a lot of practices.
It's marching band.
Stay on task. That's right. It's marching band. Basketball is where our great sports artists live.
Yeah.
Same with international soccer.
Yeah.
And so because of that, aesthetics matter.
Yep. And personality does too.
Yeah.
Like the personality of somebody is visible and informs how they play.
So a flawed player for a long time, Kareem was the best player on the planet.
Yeah.
But he was never really embraced because he was a bit prickly.
Yep.
Dr. J, there was more flavor. There was more color. There was
or Magic.
Magic Johnson.
Yeah.
Like, right? So it's like in basketball, these are artists that you're going to spill some paint.
Yeah.
Like, right? Like the greatest players shoot 48%. There's a lot of paint to be spilled. And so when I look at Jerry and I look at his, the logo, El Loco, that's part of basketball, his tough childhood. There's also something to be said about small state or small town people who go to big cities, have sort of that intuitive fear, like, oh, I'm a little kid, small town, and it drives them forever. Jerry always felt a little West Virginia.
1,000%. Without question. As long as you could put the suit, you just take a look at that. Like, you can put a suit and tie on him.
Small town kid.
But he's still got that West Virginia look to him.
What's interesting about Jerry is a lot of times as people age in any industry, the young don't really listen.
Yeah.
The young, they're disconnected. It's the old guy. It is fascinating to see the reverence Michael, Kobe, Durant, LeBron. There's a reverence to a mid-80-year-old guy, and I don't know what that is.
A big part of it was the fact that as we get older, sometimes we fall into, I know it all, and this is the way I've done it, and this has been my formula for success. And Jerry was never that way. Yes, when I would ask a question and 45 minutes later, but he wanted to know what I knew. And that's often where the conversation started. He was, as to the very end, was looking to pick other people's brains about what's going on and how things have evolved. He was an amazing listener, and he never approached it like when he would approach great players. It wasn't like, let me tell you how this works. He would ask them what's going on. And when you have somebody who's accomplished what Jerry has accomplished, and they want to know first where you're coming from, now guys feel like you're invested in them as opposed to you're just trying to show them the ropes. No, you understand that this individual's ropes might be different than what I've experienced. Let me see how my knowledge applies to their situation. It's nuanced, but that was Jerry to the very end. Jerry never thought of himself as the logo, right?
No, he pushed back multiple times. He asked Adam Silver and David Stern to change it.
Yeah, well, because he was more like, look, I mean, he never lost that I'm the kid from West Virginia trying to make it. That, at his heart, remained. And, all of the other stuff didn't change that. And it was one of the things that made him so a little crazy and a little endearing.
Yeah. Ric Bucher.